and welcome to my thoughts while standing in the queue. I was at the open market standing in line today, and I was thinking about several hamster owners who've been trying to drum up support for a group to meet the welfare needs of their hamsters. As a relative and a friend of hamster owners, I know how important support can be to a caring hamster owner whose tiny little pet shows signs of stress. We had Lizzie, a nervous wreck of a rodent, when I was a teenager. This miniature lady sat for hours in a hunched-up position, eating erratically, lapping up gallons of water. She was obviously tormented with private internal struggles, but uncaring owners that we were, we didn't notice until it was too late. One day, she gave up the ghost. She abandoned her wheel, squeezed through the bars of her elaborate cage, and scurried behind a couch and began to dig. Industrious and determined, she dug and dug through the living room floor until she dropped through the floor, all 2 ounces of her, and landed in the bottom of a trash barrel in the basement. If we'd only known how unhappy she was whirling on her wheel in front of the television set, we would have enrolled her in a hamster confidence training class at the very least. Instead, we let her wallow in our trash barrel for 2 weeks until my sister, who has the sharpest hearing in the family, heard her faint and tiny squeal for help. We pulled her out of her smelly haven, but sadly she lasted only a few days after that, so psychologically damaged was she. We buried her in a coffee can in the rose garden, and there she remains, a symbol of the uncaring, callous, irresponsible pet owners that we were. In contrast, my Irish friends purchased 2 hamsters, Chicken and Noodle, for approximately €10 each, and they invested over €200 in an elaborate cage and play area for their 2 little pets. Noodle was the smaller of the 2, and I say was because sadly Noodle is no longer with us. She got a tumor 2 months after she was purchased, and because she was so tiny, they couldn't anesthetize her to take out the tumor, and instead they put her to sleep. Poor Chicken grieved and pined for days on end, moving ever more slowly in her wheel, disinterested in her food, and huddled in a remote corner of her cage, her tummy distended with grief. Her owners, who had invested more than 100 times her purchase price in saving her little partner, are now shopping for a healthy little dumpling. How they could have used a support group to call upon. It might have saved little Noodle's life, or maybe at the best consoled poor little Chicken with her loss. Fortunately for both Chicken and her family, the owners were Irish, and somehow, after a bit of procrastination, they managed to overcome their grief and their guilt enough to stage a wake for Noodle, where everyone soaked up a lot of Jack Daniels and even more Jamesons, gobbled up ham sandwiches and quiche, and told funny stories about Noodle and her miscarriage, and about her husband, a husky hamster named Brute, who abandoned her the day she gave birth. Once Chicken lapped up a bit of Irish whiskey, well, a lot of Irish whiskey, she felt better, and although she was a bit wobbly, she resumed wobbling and dealing and wheeling and dealing in her cage. I have to say, if you're looking for a perfect pet for your child, don't get a hamster. Get a cat. They cost more and they weigh more, but they're so psychologically well adjusted. They just don't give a damn. And thank you so much for joining me in my thoughts while standing in the queue.